Hey, if you'd like to earn CEUs for this webinar, join the Safeopedia community at the link in the description below. Now, on to the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Safeopedia webinar. My name is Samantha. I'm from Safeopedia, and here at Safeopedia, it is our mission to support you, the EH&S professionals, operational folks, and any safety-minded individuals with free safety information, tools, and education. I want to extend a huge thank you to all of you, our dedicated safety professionals, for the great work you do on a daily basis in keeping us and our workplaces safe. Today, we are proud to present Staying Ahead of Injuries, TBIs, and the shift towards smarter head protection. The Safeopedia webinar has been made possible today by Radians, a preferred manufacturer member of AD Safety Network. AD, together we win. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you today's presenters, Stephanie Garner and Joe Nichols. Today, the Radians team will discuss the evolution of head protection, why Type 2 helmets are skyrocketing in popularity, and how you can stay safe without sacrificing fit or function. I'm very excited to have you all sit back, relax, and enjoy this presentation. So with that, Stephanie and Joe, let's jump into it.
So, as she mentioned, I am Stephanie Garner. I am the product manager for head protection here at Radians, and this is my good bud, Joe.
Well, thank you, good buddy Stephanie. Joe Nichols, Safe Samurai here at Radians, and I'm excited to do the Vanna White show and tell with y'all and support Stephanie while we do this presentation. So, what are we talking about today? Well, we're talking about basically the evolution of head protection. The first thing that we're going to do is give you an industry overview. We'll talk about some of the common misconceptions, go over some of the head injury data, and the encouraging change that we're seeing throughout the industry. Next, we're going to do a little head protection overview where we'll talk about the evolution of head protection, give you a little timeline, talk about the difference between safety helmet versus hard hat, and some of the protective elements that go into it. Also, cost versus value.
Okay, so when we're talking about a type 1 versus a type 2, what we're really talking about is the traditional hard hat that you've come to know on standard job sites and all of the accessories that are associated with it. This is going to provide top impact protection. And then when we're talking a type 2, this is actually providing top impact as well as sides, front, and back impact protection.
Multi-directional impact protection.
Right. So both are very necessary. Both serve a purpose in the market, but this is just a little bit upgraded and a little newer standard. So we wanted to make sure everyone was clear about what we're talking about when we go a little more in depth.
So what are we protecting against?
The primary injury that we are working to protect against is traumatic brain injuries. As an industry, we know that construction has a lot of slips, trips, falls, injuries associated with anything to do with an impact to the head. And when you're talking about something falling, the type 1 is going to be sufficient. But when we're talking about other more involved injuries, you might need more protection. Understanding the TBIs is one thing. Understanding how it relates to the industry is a very different thing. Traumatic brain injuries are noted at about 1.7 million incidents annually in the US. Of that, there are about 6,000 fatalities a year. We believe that these numbers are dramatically understated because if there's an additional injury that's related to the accident, a lot of the time it will fall into that injury as the cause of the fatality.
Give me an example of that.
Say somebody falls and they break their neck, but in the impact, they also sustain a traumatic brain injury. Well, the neck being broken is the more severe or more notable, so that might be what's documented.
So when reporting and recording goes down, you check one box, you forget to check the next.
Correct. So we believe those numbers, again, are probably very understated at this point.
That also goes for work related. You know, we just talked about the general 1.7 million incidents per year, but over 425,000 of those are work related. And not only that, there's over 1,500 of which are fatal TBIs in the workplace. So what are we talking about? We're trying to talk risk, right? You know, hazard analysis. How do we calculate risk? What's the severity? How often does it occur? So we're giving you both. The severity is, it can be life-threatening and fatal. How often does it occur? Way more than it's reported, and it's reported a lot. So talked about that. And here's one thing that we found when we were pouring over the numbers, and Stephanie did a really good job of this. And I found this statistic very fascinating. The older workforce was 4 times more likely to sustain a fatal TBI. I think that's very important, especially when we're talking about the construction industry, any high-risk industry, because it seems like that's an aging workforce. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, when we talk about aging, a lot of people associate somebody's grandfather, but a lot of the aging workforce, meaning 50s and older. There are a lot of guys that we know that are working on a job site right now that are 50 or 55 years old, and they are in a superintendent position or a foreman position. They're leading a job site, and they've used a type 1 hard hat for 20 years. Why would they need to
They've been
change?
doing the same task for 20 years.
Correct. But what we've found in a lot of the data is if they are in a leadership position, they're more likely to be training new hires, which then puts them in a position of risk because that guy doesn't know exactly what he's doing. They're also going to be the more skilled labor. So if something gets a little bit sketchy, they're going to be the one that steps in and kind of saves the day. So we're going to have scenarios where senior leadership is more reluctant to change and more prone to injury.
Those guys are just more complacent with, what they've always been doing,
Correct.
and they just think it's less likely. But we all know that's not how it works. That's how you end up being a statistic.
Correct.
That's very fascinating. Now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a little bit of the timeline, give you a little bit of background. Where did we start from, and how did we get where we're at?
1919, the hard hat was invented. Back then, wearing a hard hat was still voluntary. Employers were not required to supply them, and employees were not required to wear them. If employees wanted one, they had to purchase them out of pocket. During the construction of the Hoover Dam and the Golden Gate Bridge in the 1930s was one of the first instances that employers required employees to wear hard hats. In the 1950s and 60s, thermoplastic and polyethylene hard hats were introduced. These hard hats were lighter, more comfortable, and more economical. This is key because there were still no regulations for workplace safety, meaning it was still largely voluntary. ANSI published the ANSI/ISEA Z89.1 Industrial Head Protection Standard in 1969. In the 1970s, due to public outcry over workplace injuries and deaths, Congress passed the Occupational Health and Safety Act with bipartisan support. A year later, OSHA was born and became the federal regulatory and enforcement agency for workplace safety. This marks a paradigm shift from voluntary to mandatory by law. Fast forward to the 1990s, ventilated hard hats were approved. In the early 2000s, hard hats began using specialty plastics that were even lighter weight, more economical, and increased comfort and protection, which led to greater user acceptance. Then in the 2010s, climbing style hard hats specifically made for the industrial construction space began rising in popularity.
So, interesting timeline, a little history. It's been an industry since 1912, but we really haven't seen a ton of, developments that have been ground shaking for the past like 30, 40 years until just recently. And a lot of that is because people are realizing the hazards that are out there. So
it's really interesting when you look at other industries that have head protection involved. When we look at things like the military protection, football helmets, climbing helmets, they have protection including suspension, the impact absorption. Those factors are built in and they've been there for decades.
So increased protection, increased performance, and it's going to stay on your head with that retention system.
Correct.
Gotcha.
So it's interesting that the industrial industry has just decided to pick up on this, but we're happy that we're shifting this way and acknowledging that there's a risk within the industry. So we kind of covered earlier what type 1 versus type 2 meant just in general, but we're going to dive in a little bit more regarding the suspension and the way that they're made. So type 1, as we mentioned, is going to provide top impact protection. Think there's a guy working on scaffolding and a brick is dropped. The guy below him is protected from the brick falling and he's good to go. When we look at the inside of the helmet, you'll see that the suspension offers 4 points of contact with the helmet. This is a 4-point hard hat with a ratchet suspension. This banding here is a nylon ribbon, and what it's doing is it's holding the hard hat in place and it's helping disperse the weight of the shell so you don't have neck fatigue throughout the day.
So if you have like a 10-pound object hit this hard hat, it's gonna just disperse the 10 pounds. So 2.5 or 2.5 pounds. What was that? 5 pounds? Sort of thing? There we go.
Correct. So, and it's pretty common that you'll see a 4-point or a 6-point within the industry. A lot of the time, 4-point is going to be a little bit more economical, but it is the same type 1 protection. The other thing that you see commonly is a ratchet instead of a pin lock. So a pin lock is like a snapback baseball cap, where a ratchet is a dial that you actually turn for comfort. As the industry evolves, pin lock is kind of phasing out, because if you think about every time you put your hard hat on, having to adjust the back of your ball cap, it would get pretty cumbersome after time. It's also more prone to needing more cleaning because stuff gets in those little grooves of the pin lock. So a ratchet is just a lot more convenient on the job site. It's also something everybody's known, and there are accessories that have been developed to kind of work with this program. So people know it, they trust it, and they believe in it. As we have it shown here, this is what we would consider more of a loggers combo. So this is somebody that's maybe clearing a job site before the development begins. The shield is a wire mesh, so it's going to help any projectile. So while they're cutting up the pieces of wood, the hearing protection clips in and out, and they all work in tandem. This is more common on a cap style, where you might have more of a full brim style. It's over here, sorry. But they are available and everybody knows them and trusts them.
So all the type 1s have the ability to accessorize.
Correct.
Nice, nice, nice. So let's talk about type 2. So type 2, this is our display model. What is type 2 doing? As we said, it's giving you that top of crown protection for impact and penetration, but it has the added benefit of giving you impact protection for any horizontal impacts, flying objects, all the other struck bys. And it's going to give it to the front, the back, and both sides. Plus, it's giving you that top. And it has to be 90 degrees from vertical. Why is that important? That means that is the point that we have to give it. So it's going to give a little bit more side protection down on it. Now, what's also cool about the Type 2 is you have upgraded suspensions and liners. So you saw a standard fabric suspension that was using a ribbon. Ribbon doesn't sound very helpful, but what is this? This has an EPS foam liner in it. That foam liner, it's not just for dispersion. It's actually going to absorb the impact. So it's going to absorb the impact. It's not just going to transfer it down to your head. Well, what's the problem with EPS foam? It can be considered bulky, and it can be considered uncomfortable and hot. Well, that's what we tried to do to make it more comfortable, and we try to solve those pain points. What did we do? We had ventilation channels in it. Those ventilation channels are going to be no matter if it's the class E or class C, and it is completely safe for electrical use. It's going to increase the airflow, reduce the weight, and it's not going to have any issue with the energy absorption. Well, hey, that EPS foam is hard. I don't like it to wear it on my head. Well, we did something about that. We added the foam liner on the inside. It's a comfort foam, and we did it with Velcro. So that way you can take it out, replace it, wash it if necessary. If it gets lost, you can replace that as well. So we made it cooler, we made it lighter, and it's going to absorb better. Plus, it's machine washable. Nice little liner in there. Steph, give me that remote. What else did we do, Steph?
We also made sure that a lot of the complaint or concern you hear on job sites is around having to wear a chin strap. we knew going in that this was going to be something we had to kind of tackle in terms of converting people from type 1 to type 2. So we added a chin strap that is adjustable in the ear spacing, so it's not going to be too close or uncomfortable at your cheekbones. It's also going to have a PU leather coated chin strap. So sometimes you get a rub where you're having to wear something for hours a day or you're sweating. This isn't going to cause irritation, and it's going to help keep it a little bit more sanitary. It's also going to help you not snag like if you have a beard. So it keeps it a little bit more comfortable throughout the day. And we know comfort equals compliance.
Yeah.
If they're comfortable, they're more likely to wear it how it's intended. We also added an articulating suspension, and a lot of people don't understand exactly what that means. That means that this piece here can shift to wherever you need it to be on the back of your neck for the most comfort. You can adjust it easily in and out, and you can place it where it's going to land the most comfortably on your neck. The
Also
other thing,
notice how that helps to really secure it on the head.
correct, yeah. So just because you're wearing a chin strap, it doesn't mean it has to be completely tight against your neck. You have this ratchet holding it flush with your crown of your head, and this is more of a backup safety measure. The other thing you have is with this being articulating and you can move it, you have spacing here if you have a ponytail on the job site and you need somewhere to put your hair through. You don't have to worry about that becoming an issue. Do I have to wear my hair down all the time? Obviously, I would not like that very much in the middle of the summer. This just gives you a little bit of versatility, and it's a little bit more
Adjustable,
customizable and adjustable than a traditional type 1 hard hat might be.
Find that with the ear holes, you can fit a wide variety of faces. The suspension articulates, yeah,
Correct.
expands everything.
There are also a lot of accessories that have been developed for this program. One of the things that came out with this that was a little bit new was a shaped visor. If you can see here, a lot of people call it the fighter pilot visor. I think that's related to Top Gun coming out around the same time. But what this is doing is it's going to still sit flush across the brim like a normal face shield, but it's coming closer to your face, so it serves as primary eye protection. This one you would not have to wear safety glasses with because it is tested as primary eye protection. If you're more comfortable with wearing safety glasses, or if you're going in and out of a work environment where you need a full face shield like grinding or anything that has a lot of chemical splash, you still have the full face polycarbonate available. It's just not going to serve as primary protection. It's secondary.
Why is it not primary?
Because you have to have the ability for something to pop up and not
So
go
this sits
under
more
the
flush
brim.
to the face.
Yeah, so it's going to create a tighter seal around your nose and then so nothing can get into your eyes. It's just keeping you a little bit safer
Gotcha.
and making sure that it's the right product for you.
Got you. Yeah, a lot of good type 2 accessories that we have.
Right.
And that's what's kind of cool. When type 2 was developed, all of the type 1 accessories, this hard hat design, it's from the, probably 70s, 60s, 70s. These, we just now designed these helmets. And so we were able to design the attachments that everybody was dying for. I say she was able to design this ahead of time, which made it a lot more modular. So that was it's really interesting. I really appreciate you enlightening us on that. So that's kind of the overview of our type 2 solution. What we'd like to ask y'all to do is go check out this QR code, scan it. It'll lead you to our fast facts. It'll give you all the data we just discussed. It'll break down the differences between the different safety helmets versus hard hats. It'll tell you about difference between Class E, Class C and G. It'll tell you the difference between type 1, type 2. We'll be updating this soon when the new standard is released. If you don't like QR codes, don't know why you dislike them, but you can go to our website, Radians, RADIANS.com. And at the top bar, you're going to see something that says resources. You hover over resources, you can go down, click on product fast facts. Those are crash courses into these different topics, and you can select the head protection one. Good little resource for all of our end user partners out there. And we have our industrial sales team. If you're not sure what those different pieces is talking about, or you need something further explained, we highly recommend you reach out to our very knowledgeable sales team or to Stephanie and myself, and we can have a conversation with you about your current situation, your needs, and what else we can answer in terms of information for you. We'd love to work with you. And that's going to be kind of the end of the presentation here. So what we'd like to do is see if y'all have any questions.
Wow, Joe, Stephanie, thank you so much. That was a ton of really cool information. Personally, I kind of forgot that hard hats had to be invented, and I kind of expect them always to be there. So to know that 1919 was kind of their launching date, that's pretty cool. So my main concern, my main question for you guys is I've only ever gone onto the job site as a salesperson, and I put on a hard hat that fits. I've never looked at the color. So I'm looking at your screen and now I'm kind of worried. Should I be worried about the color? Is there a specific reason that we're choosing a specific color for our hard hats?
It's a really good question. And I had no clue you're going to ask, but since you did, yes, color is all about what the end user decides it needs to be about. There's no standard, there's no regulations out there that says you have to wear this color, that color. It's all about the end user. So just like y'all do your hazard analysis, you tell us what the hazard is, the risk level, and then you implement your safety measures and controls to eliminate that down to as low as possible. You can decide what the colors mean. If, typically white and yellow, that's going to be your managers and it's going to be your laborers. Well, what if we're a GC and we decide we want all of our electrical guys in blue? You want your MEPs in blue and green. Then you say, hey, I want all my safety folks in red. I want my medics in high-vis lime or green or orange. It's whatever you make it. We do have a very helpful chart that we created that we tried to use the industry best in class practices and combine all that, and we can make it available to y'all as well.
End users or certain areas where we're starting to see recommendations by like DOT crews where they refuse to let people wear black on the job site. It's not necessarily as much that it is a requirement as it is, or a standard as it is a requirement for their area because of struck by hazards. Wherever you're working or whoever you're working with will have a guideline for these types of color selections. And again, the chart that we have is a great resource if somebody's looking to set up a program.
Perfect. Would you guys be willing to put that QR code in your website back on? I'd love to make sure that everybody's scanning that QR code. And as Joe said, if you don't love that QR code, there is that resource that is downloadable. Head on over to radians.com. It's on the screen and you can download that because I know there are a few people out there that still want to have that tangible item or at least something that they can print off.
Right.
All right. Well, that's the questions that I have, except for this. Now, I know we love putting stickers on our hard hats, so I have to ask, what about imprinting?
Yeah, so we can pad print what you would normally have on a standard Type 1 helmet. We are able to do that to most of our Type 2 helmets that we offer here at Radians. We also have a premium vinyl transfer, which is a pretty fancy way to say sticker. But
way better than
but it is made from the same materials that are used to make street signs. So it's going to stand up well to UV exposure. It's going to hold up well in the elements. It handles high heat and low heat, and it gives you a little bit more customizable content because you can use gradient colors and colors that are not typically available in a pad print location. So lots of options.
Fantastic. Yeah, I know that the elements kind of affect what we're putting on our hard hat, so it's good to know that yours will last a little longer.
We
All
like
right,
to
team.
think so.
I appreciate you guys so much. We learned a lot about hard hats today and keeping our noggins a little bit safer, especially from those dangerous TBIs. So before we wrap it up today, is there anything you want to hit home or reiterate to make sure that we are keeping our workers and our workplaces safe?
Listen to your people, stay vigilant when you're on the job site, and always make sure that you are keeping up on the standards. If you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us because we can point you in the right direction and make sure that you fully understand what you're working with instead of just going with the flow, because sometimes it can save a life.
What she said.
Perfect. Well, again, I appreciate you for being here. I want to give a huge shout out to both Stephanie and Joe, as well as Radians and AD Safety Network for allowing us to be here. We wouldn't be able to put on any of this without you. And of course, the audience, without you guys, we wouldn't be able to keep our workplaces safe. So thanks again. Take care, stay safe. And as Stephanie said, comfort equals compliance. Reach out to your Radians team. Make sure that you're covered. Bye, everyone.